I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where life flows in an unchanging rhythm. My name is Sarah, and despite being young and capable, I often feel a sense of emptiness creeping into my daily life. The routine, though stable, has grown tiresome. Even with people around me, I grapple with loneliness, a quiet, gnawing feeling that refuses to leave. Next door lives Mr. Harrison, a man in his 60s with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. His wife, Mrs. Harrison, is a highly successful businesswoman, always busy and often away on work trips. Their relationship seemed strained, perhaps from years of emotional neglect. It was none of my business, but the loneliness that seemed to hang around Mr. Harrison mirrored my own. One afternoon, as I was returning home from a walk, he waved me down. "Could you help me with these groceries?" he asked, smiling apologetically as he gestured to the heavy bags in his car. I agreed, happy to lend a hand. What began as a small favor quickly turned into something more. He started inviting me over for coffee, and I found myself visiting more often, helping him around the house, and chatting during his wife's frequent absences. At first, I saw it as simple kindness. He was a kind and polite man who clearly needed someone to talk to. But as time passed, I began to notice the quiet sadness in his eyes. The way he would pause mid-sentence when speaking about his wife, as if choosing his words carefully. It wasn't long before our conversations turned deeply personal. He confided in me about the growing emotional distance between him and his wife. "She's always been ambitious," he explained one day, staring out the window as if searching for something he'd lost. I admired that about her, but somewhere along the way, we stopped being a team. I listened quietly, unsure of how to respond. He didn't complain, not directly. Instead, his words carried the weight of resignation. A man who had learned to live with the ache of loneliness. I empathized with him because in many ways I felt the same. Despite our age difference, we both craved connection, and we both felt its absence keenly. Our conversations grew longer, more intimate. He shared stories about his youth, his marriage, and the dreams he had once had. I, in turn, found myself opening up in ways I hadn't with anyone else. There was something comforting in his presence, a sense of being truly seen and heard. Yet, as our bond deepened, I began to feel conflicted. I couldn't ignore the way he looked at me sometimes longer than necessary, with a softness that made my heart race. I told myself it was nothing, that he was simply grateful for my company. But the truth lingered unspoken between us. He never crossed the line, and neither did I, but the emotional intimacy we shared felt dangerous, like walking a tightrope over a chasm. I began to wonder if I was becoming more than just a friend to him, if I was filling a void his wife had left behind. And in my quiet moments, I realized he was filling a void in me too. One evening, as the sun set over our suburban neighborhood, we sat on his porch, sipping tea. He looked at me with a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. "You know," he said softly, "you've brought a light into this house I didn't realize I was missing." I didn't know how to respond. My heart swelled with warmth but also fear. Was I helping him? Or was I making things worse for both of us? I thought about his wife, about the vows he had taken, and I thought about myself, what I wanted and what I didn't. After that evening, I tried to pull back. I visited less often, made excuses, and avoided situations where we might be alone together. But the distance was hard for both of us. He would call or stop by, asking if everything was all right. I assured him it was, but I could see the confusion and hurt in his eyes. Eventually, I decided we needed to talk. One afternoon, I sat him down and told him how I felt. "Mr. Harrison," I began, my voice trembling, "I think we've grown too close. I care about you, but whatever this is, it's not right." He looked at me for a long time, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded. "I understand," he said quietly, "but I hope you know how much your friendship has meant to me. Tears welled in my eyes, and I fought to keep my composure. And yours has meant the world to me, I replied. But we both need to find our own way forward. From that day on, I made a conscious effort to create distance. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I missed him terribly. But I knew it was the right thing to do for him, for his marriage, and for myself. Months later, I saw him again, this time with his wife. They were walking hand in hand, smiling and laughing. It hurt, in a way, but it also gave me hope. Perhaps my presence had reminded him of what he truly wanted, to reconnect with the woman he had loved for so many years. As for me, I took the experience as a lesson. I learned that loneliness can lead us into complicated situations. But it's how we handle them that defines who we are. Mr. Harrison and I had shared something real, but it wasn't meant to last. And that was okay.